right? I always tell people it's not the cholesterol issue that you have. The issue is not enough fiber. So it's not the steak problem. It's like, what do you eat the steak with? In most steak houses, they don't do a lot of vegetables. That's the problem. I always recommend my clients begin their meal with fiber, things like green leafy vegetables.
Do you think we can get enough omega-3 nutrition from fish alone, or do you think we need to be supplementing with?
It really depends on how well you absorb it. Most people, first of all, they don't eat enough seafood. They don't like it. I recommend at least 3 times a week, and sometimes people don't have access to it. That's when supplementation is in order. Omega-3 is one of the supplements that I'm very conservative with supplementation. I'm like, you can avoid taking it.
So I'm here in Davos with the wonderful Ella. She is a gut health expert focused also on longevity, author, and spoken also at the White House. She hosts longevity lunches and dinners at the White House.
That's right.
So she sits at the intersection of gut health and longevity. So very interested in the work that you're doing about gut health.
Thank you.
So what I really wanted to ask you is, what do you think of the new food pyramid that Maha, Make America Healthy Again, has created? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the new administration is doing an incredible job bringing in latest scientific evidence on aging and health span optimization. So it's no longer a bare minimum, just do this and be average. No, we are focused on national resilience of making our citizens stronger and healthier longer. So the new pyramid is really outlines and prioritizes proteins and whole foods and vegetables and produce, real food, to make our citizens healthy, because protein and vegetables and fiber at every meal makes losing weight no big deal. Our country sits at a very interesting intersection of, at the same time, being one of the most unhealthiest nations, with statistics showing that over 40% of American citizens are overweight or obese. And at the same time, correct me if I'm wrong, our country is leading some of the trends and setting the trends on health span, a healthy lifestyle, and research advances on health optimization and aging. Am I wrong or right?
Absolutely, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
We have some of the most brilliant minds doing the work, speaking, and trying to create a difference. And we have the masses that are very unhealthy and not winning or not doing well. So what's happening in the middle is the government and the policies. And what we see right now with the new administration is change. And we're trying to bridge that together. So we're taking some of the most brilliant minds from Stanford, Harvard, or Mayo Clinic, and we're listening to them. We're listening. So I don't know if you know, but RFK, who is leading, our health secretary, his doctor is a functional medicine practitioner, Mark Hyman, who is my mentor.
Amazing.
And he's the one behind all of these recommendations, and we're very excited for this to go from top down. And this is me now, as you know, I'm stepping into the leadership role as a president of Global Longevity Association, seeing that health span is no longer just a personal journey. You know how we used to say, become the CEO of your health. You know why? Because nobody else cares. Industry doesn't care, policy doesn't care. And if you don't care about yourself, you'll become the product of the environment. And that's what most Americans are. Overweight, everything's super convenient and not conducive to healthy lifestyle, right? So now what we're trying to do is to change that. It's no longer, it's just your personal responsibility to be healthy. We're creating an environment. And that's what I spoke at the USA House. I spoke about how longevity movement is no longer just a personal journey or personal responsibility. We are creating opportunities for this to become a cultural shift, ethical shift, and also economical opportunities. That's what some of the criticism that RFK gets, that he's promoting supplements, because it is an important part of healthy lifestyle. But we're not going to talk about that. For most people, and your question was about the pyramid, some of the healthiest things are free. It's healthy sleep, a good amount of sleep, exercise, and healthy nutrition. Nutrition is not exactly free, but it doesn't cost that much as long as we have the system corrected by the people who truly care about each other. And as you know, previously, most of us was created by the industry. And the industry is only focused on profits.
Right.
And profits only created by shelf-stable products, which happens to be ultra-processed foods.
Absolutely.
which also happens to be not exactly health conducive. No matter how many health claims you put on the packaging, it doesn't matter. And now Americans are finally waking up to this and saying enough is enough. We're no longer going to go with just marketing claims. We're going to go with the science. And like I said, so many new developments are happening in the health span optimization industry that we're finally putting that into practice. And leadership is finally aware of it.
Absolutely. When it comes to nutrition,
Yes.
we're told to consider, for example, protein,
Yes.
glucose control,
Yes.
fasting, and fiber. In terms of optimizing your health and your gut health,
Yeah.
what would you say is the most important of those four? Obviously, an element of all is important,
Yeah.
but what would you say moves the needle the most in terms of gut health and a healthy gut microbiome?
Generally speaking, yes, your gut thrives on fiber, diverse sources of fiber. And as we say, it's variety and diversity that creates the thriving microbiome. Microbiome is the total makeup of alive bacteria inside of us that helps us to ferment, absorb, and break down the nutrients to create the hormones, the neurotransmitter, and organ tissues, right? Before it gets to the organs, it first gets absorbed in the gut, and our gut needs to do a good job. So generally speaking, we should be prioritizing plant fibers from all types of plants, from green leafy vegetables, from colorful fruits and berries and vegetables, as well as plants, legumes, nuts, and seeds. They're all essential. And then the protein part, we tend to prioritize for the amino acids for different reasons. The amino acids are essential for creating, because they're the building blocks, the peptides, and then it turns into amino acids and the proteins. It's essential of the muscle mass, as you probably know, right? And one of the aging, what we call like aging cofactors is frailty.
Absolutely.
And to prevent frailty, because muscle is a type of organ, if you don't use it, you lose it. I usually say the same thing with brain. Like, you need to stay active throughout your life. But most of us, active lifestyle is not really promoted. You don't have to exercise, and it's socially acceptable to be obese. It's socially acceptable to not exercise, right? That's what we're trying to change. And therefore, if you don't exercise, what happens is you lose muscle mass. And if you lose muscle mass, you are more prone to falling. And that accounts for half of mortality rates, or like what happens with aging, in addition to chronic disease exposure. So tackling this from different angles. Like, one of them is preventing chronic disease and chronic inflammation with anti-inflammatory foods, which is focused on real foods, and then tackling frailty with the protein intake and healthy exercise. And that's what we see some of the leading industry voices are promoting these days. And that's what we love seeing, that it was no longer like the doctor who smokes and doesn't do the right thing, or the gym bros, and then like in between, like, who's right, who's wrong. But now we see doctors and leaders that are leading by example, and they're doing it for themselves first, for their families, and then for the rest of the culture. And those are the types of leaders you want to follow. And RFK is one of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What is your view on artificial sweeteners and their impact on the gut microbiome? So,
Yes.
for example, a lot of ketchups, for example, they add sucralose.
Yeah.
There's I'm sure there's more superior artificial sweeteners like
Sucralose is actually not the worst, because it's sugar, basically. But there's other derivatives of sweeteners. Generally speaking, they don't belong in your body. If it's made in a chemical lab, if it's artificial sweetener, it doesn't belong in a human body, because at the end of the day, human body is not part of the nature. It is nature. We come back to nature when we die, We are made of natural compounds, and anything that's created in an artificial lab, it just doesn't belong there. It doesn't kill you, right? Like, it goes through it. It's like it doesn't have any caloric weight to it, right? So, but it doesn't have any health benefits.
Right.
And so because it's artificial and because it doesn't have health benefits, it doesn't belong there. I would never recommend that. My favorite sweeteners are honey, typical regular sugar, brown sugar, like in small amounts, obviously, right? Maple syrup, and what else am I missing? May tell me. Agave syrup. Some of the natural ones, The least processed it is, the better. And ideally, you consume it as like lowest possible intake to prevent inflammation and to prevent diabetes and insulin.
And fruit in moderation, right?
Fruit in moderation, yeah.
Okay, that's fantastic. That's helpful to understand. what actionable advice would you give someone who wants to really improve their gut health, taking the average population into consideration? I mean, most of us don't meet all the criteria for metabolic health. I think it's 85 to 95% of US population do not meet the full criteria for metabolic health. And I think it's something similar in the UK, probably around.
What we're seeing is people are not consuming enough of these polyphenols and health supportive compounds, supportive of heart health, of gut health, of overall metabolic resilience. And that usually comes from antioxidant-rich, colorful fruits and vegetables. So my recommendation is focus on the rainbow. Eat the rainbow at every meal. So have at least a couple of colors on your dish. I usually separate green leafy vegetables because they're the superheroes. They happen to be free food, no calories. And at least one or two colors, the orange, the red ones, the purple ones. The more color it has, the more antioxidant it has. And that's what most people don't eat enough of. For example, even like I go out and dine out a lot and I travel a lot, right? And the problem I see with some of the restaurants, it's not the steak that's fatty that's the problem, or people afraid of cholesterol, right? I always tell people it's not the cholesterol issue that you have. The issue is not enough fiber. So it's not the steak problem. It's like, what do you eat the steak with? In most steak houses, they don't do a lot of vegetables, right? It's like steak and potatoes. It's all you get. So that's the problem. I always recommend my clients begin their meal with fiber, things like green leafy vegetables or even like salad, and some roasted or sauteed vegetables, temperature treated. It doesn't have to be just salads, especially for dinner. You know, you want to have some warm vegetables. So, and then back to the gut health question. So there's 5 different aspects of optimal gut health.
Right.
And most people have issues with 1 or 2 things. So if you know that I have created the gut-brain method, and it sets out to define what is an optimal gut health. Everyone's talking about it, right? And there's all these trending subjects. Is it the microbiome? Is it the inflammation? Is it the parasites? Which one is an optimal gut health? And everyone's confused. But because I have a medical background and I have access to diagnostics, I diagnose people before I treat them.
Right.
So we have comprehensive stool test analysis.
Is that
Yes.
microbiome?
Not just microbiome. Microbiome is only one part of it.
Right.
So there's 5 different aspects of optimal gut health. Microbiome is one of them, which is a balance of bacteria. There's different types of bacteria. There's a commensal bacteria, which is gut friendly, and then there's pathogenic bacteria, which is gut unfriendly. And the balance of it is key. That's number 1.
Right.
Number 2 is inflammation. Inflammation begins in the gut, and all these processed foods, they first affect your gut, and only then some of the antibodies gets absorbed into or like damage your gut, and then they get an inflammation spreads into the rest. That's where
when you look at inflammation, do you look at CRP more, IL-6?
No, that's blood.
Okay.
We're testing gut. Okay, so that's different. But let me finish. I'm not finished with the gut health, right? So that's just 2. There's a lot. That's why for anyone who's listening, I tell you, go to the gutbrainmethod.com, and it's not expensive. You can sign up and become a student and learn about the gut health and become certified gut health expert and help others. Because I can't do all this on my own. We need other experts. And so let me just finish with the 5, right? So I just mentioned microbiome,
Absolutely.
inflammation. The third one is digestion. Most people take it for granted, but the enzymatic sufficiency, especially when people age, the problem very often is that they don't absorb all those expensive nutrients and those protein shakes that they do.
Right.
Some of the, as we age, we see the enzymatic insufficiency specifically to dairy products.
Right.
But overall, protein and fats, that's what we diagnose with. And then number 4, after digestion, inflammation, and microbiome, there's infections.
Right.
I'm sure you've heard people like, you need parasitic detox and stuff.
Yes.
So we diagnose for viruses, fungi, and parasites.
Right.
And that is a whole different treatment. Nutrition alone cannot do that. That's herbal treatments. And then number 5 is metabolites.
Right.
Not many people are aware of that your gut actually creates nutrients. Did you know that vitamin K is created in your gut? It's based on the fermentations. And then short-chain fatty acids, essential for mitochondrial functioning, and they're anti-inflammatory as well. They are created in the gut.
Right.
And we diagnose that. We measure that and diagnose insufficiency, whether if you don't have enough short-chain fatty acids, that usually causes early aging. So that is what our program is based on. There's comprehensive diagnostics, and we have labs in the United States mostly, but we also have one in London.
Amazing.
So yes, most of our students are from Europe and London. Middle East is still like, I want to bring that to the Middle East, but it's harder because they have to ship the test and do it. And we are not just theory based. First of all, we diagnose, and it's like based on what I just said, those 5 different aspects. Guess what? People who are getting tested, everyone has different results. Some people don't have parasites, but they have inflammation. And then I have, with my clients, most of the health coaches, dietitians, models, OBGYNs, nurses, those are all students. And they come and they eat already healthy. Some of them don't have inflammation because they're young and they eat healthy, but they have parasites because they traveled or because they have dogs. And that's a whole different program for them.
Right. When you say parasites,
Yeah.
the first thing that comes into mind
Tell
is
me.
sushi and raw
That's
fish.
right. Yeah.
So what is your perspective on that? I mean, how much
Look, I love
sushi?
sushi. Right? So my recommendation is never like avoid sushi. Like the people who talk like that, it's like, oh, there's a problem with this food. Never eat it.
Right.
Guess what? None of us, especially those who are listening and thinking like, oh my God, I'm doing so bad, right? And I'm somehow doing great. No, none of us is somehow impervious to anything. We also get sick. I diagnosed myself with parasites 5 years ago. That's how I got into this industry, right? And so it happens to the best of us who travel, who function like nonstop, like we are doing in Davos, right? Who eat sushi. It happens. But what we should be aware of what we should be doing. That's why the program that we created, it's not just for certified gut health expert. It's actually designed, we say, heal yourself, help your family, and help others. So we're trying to bring this knowledge to the people. So you can continue enjoying sushi, maybe in better places, not just at a supermarket where they treat better fish, right? Or maybe you should be buying fish from only sources that you know that they only get the like wild caught salmon that's being. Or there's a company that I work with, Seatopia in the United States. They test for everything, for all the like microplastics, for heavy metals.
Right.
So it doesn't have any of that. So yeah, things like that. So you have to. So that's what we provide, like resources. So once you know it, you don't no longer confused. You have create clarity and empowerment to know exactly what to do and how to do it, no matter what happens to you. And especially when you travel, things to take with you and things, what enzymes to carry with you. If you're diagnosed with dairy intolerance, doesn't mean if you come to Switzerland, you can be afraid of cheese. Just take your enzymes with me. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So one of my latest books for those who are like, I don't know, not able to afford the Gut Brain Meta program, which is only $800, which is, I don't know, 500 Swiss francs or something like that. You can buy my book. It's called The Foodie Diet. And there's a lot of specific education. The foodie is for those who like to eat good food and to travel. And that's where I'll outline. Just take your enzymes with me. Make your life easier. Don't struggle, But that alone could be life-changing to people. Those who are afraid of food when they're traveling. I can't be eating this. I was diagnosed with this,
Yep. What about the...
A lot of people are not even diagnosed. They're just like, oh, I don't know if I might be allergic to this. Go ahead.
What about the nuances? You mentioned, for example, the point around wild fish and farmed fish.
Yeah.
Is there a meaningful difference that warranting purchasing like wild sources of like say salmon versus farmed salmon?
There's a few differences. Number one is mercury exposure, right? So you want to go with the sources that actually measure mercury in their fish. There's a couple of brands, Safe Catch and Seatopia, they do measure. Number two, salmon and salmon eggs is an extraordinary source of antioxidants called astaxanthin. Have you ever heard of it? Great for endurance, for heart health. And so antioxidants are responsible for bright colors. And that bright orange color of salmon, that's where it comes from. And so now tell me the difference between the wild-caught salmon and farm-raised. What's the difference in terms of color?
Yeah, so the wild salmon, like the
It's almost
sockeye
red.
salmon, it's more, it's a lot more color in it.
Intense color.
Yeah.
That's antioxidant. So that's already the reason why to get that one instead of the pale orange.
Makes sense.
And the second reason is what happens when the wild salmon, it's usually much more leaner, right? It's not as fattier. If you go like those white lines are much more frequent in the wild salmon versus Farm raised is much more fattier. It's more buttery. It's like melts in your mouth. It's almost like the Wagyu beef, right? Because it's very fatty, but it doesn't have as much as like health benefits. It's much more fattier, right? It's
Right.
almost going between filet mignon and ribeye, right? So that's the give and take. That's what I like. In the way I balance it in my house, I only eat wild caught salmon. I deliver it from Alaska, from the sources that I know. But when I go out, I can't control it, right? So
Yeah.
it's the 80-20 rule where it's not what you do once in a while that kills you. It's what you do every day. And I eat at home most of the time, like 80% of my time. So if you eat 80% of the time clean, you shouldn't be afraid of farm-raised salmon. It's not all or nothing. You see what I mean? Like, I'd like to get rid of all this like stress and tension when people only get into this. I call them a health enthusiast. I'm like, I could never touch. Just relax. It's okay. And then you taste the difference. When you go to the restaurant and you eat the farm-raised salmon, it's delicious. Let's admit it. It's so buttery. It melts in your mouth. And then you go home and you eat the wild-caught salmon. It's like a what do you call it? It's like a very dry because it's not as lean. I had to pour olive oil on it to make it taste better. So that's the approach.
Are there better sources of farm salmon? Is there any way of telling the source?
So have you heard of regenerative agriculture? It's basically how we treat the animals is the difference, right? So there are some farms right now, it's called regenerative culture, where they treat fish really well. It's farm raised,
Right.
but it's the healthy farms where they don't treat fish with just some shit that's like hormones and antibiotics, so it grows faster,
Right.
so they can make more profit, right? So actually, Seatopi is one of them. I think they're not wild caught, they're farm raised, but they're farmers that they have control over what the fish eats.
Right.
And this way, you have control over the type of fish that you get.
Okay, that's interesting.
Look it up. I'm actually going to introduce you to the owner of the brand. He's very passionate. He's from Los Angeles, very passionate about health and wellness, and he would love to speak with you, I'm sure.
That's a perfect segue into omega-3s. Do you think we can get enough omega-3 nutrition from fish alone, or do you think we need to be supplementing with omega-3?
Personal. It really depends on how well you absorb it. Most people, first of all, they don't eat enough seafood. They don't like it. The fish is. I recommend at least 3 times a week, and sometimes people don't have an opportunity to do that, right? Especially if they live in the countries like Switzerland or anywhere else, they don't have access to it. That's when supplementation is in order, right? But if you do have access to it, omega-3 is one of the supplements that I'm very conservative with supplementation. I'm like, you can avoid taking it because it is expensive. If you make sure to eat things, not just salmon, remember, there's also sardines, there's mackerel, there's herring. And I'm someone who eats a lot of that fish, especially sardines and mackerel, canned from Portugal. They're always in my pantry. So sometimes just for lunch, especially when I used to work at a clinic, my lunch would be just a box of arugula, some crackers, and a can of sardines and some raspberries and some avocado, and that would be it.
Right.
It's so convenient to travel with because it's high in protein and omega-3s, but most people don't do it. See what I mean? For them, yes, they have to supplement.
And then even within supplementation.
And then the next thing is comprehensive testing. When you test your blood and you find out whether you have, what levels, because some of the
omega-3 index.
Exactly. And then when you test, you create clarity. It's no longer, it doesn't matter, who says what. You figure out whether you have enough of it or not.
And then within supplementation, there's certain nuances. For example, omega-3s in triglyceride form is really what you should be taking versus ethyl ester. So those things, I think a lot of the general population don't understand that. They're buying omega-3s thinking it's a good quality source supplement, but it's not actually in triglyceride form. So it's important to take those nuances into consideration.
Not aware of it as much, so you probably know a little more than me.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Just wondering if there's anything else that's worth covering in terms of already. Yeah. It's good. Yeah.
I don't know how you're gonna post stuff. Let's focus on this for now because you want to talk about the gut health. But we didn't talk about the global longevity.
What about peptides? Do you have a view on peptides?
Not my specialty.
Okay, fine. We're going.
But there's one that BPC 157. Specifically, healing to gut health, leaky gut for those who live.
You recommend that at all too?
Of course. if you live your life to the fullest and you've been eating like junk food, like most of the CEOs have done, you have created damage to your gut. And if you're in your 50s, the only way to reverse it is through supporting extra health. And we've been recommending collagen and L-glutamine and all these amino acids. And this peptide specifically, yeah, I get it from my parents.
In terms of supplementation, are there
Especially alcohol. If you drink alcohol, you do need that peptide.
Are there any supplements that you prioritize yourself? I mean, as someone,
I take a lot of supplements.
a globally renowned dietitian, what supplements do you take?
Well, I take a complex of some of the basics, the D, magnesium, zinc, yeah, because I diagnosed myself with almost like a very low vitamin D, not a deficiency, but very low, despite living in Florida and being exposed to the sun.
Wow.
You see what I mean? So I was like, I had to get it up, right? And then I do take some of the like advanced formulas on immune support, and cellular support like quercetin, resveratrol, and then my other favorites are like medicinal mushrooms like cordyceps, reishi. I've been taking this for like 15 years from my Chinese medicine provider that it does support immune system. And I'm absolutely obsessed. I love that. Vitamin C is one of the most well-researched antioxidant that supports immune system. Elderberry extract, so I take these things. Yeah, a lot of different formulas. I post on my social media a lot, like there's some of the protocols that I like go through and change. I like to use supplementations like in addition to my diet. For example, if I've traveled like to places like Switzerland and I haven't had fish for a while, that's when I supplement omega-3. But if I know I had supplements, I had omega-3, I had salmon yesterday, and then I just had like sardines today, I'm not taking omega-3 capsules tomorrow. See, right now I'm more strategic about it. Yeah, NAC is one of the, like well-researched compounds that like we do recommend. It's not very expensive, but it's like one of the antioxidants. It does.
What about glycine?
Glycine is not my go-to as a parent now.
Got it. And you mentioned Dr. Mark Hyman, which I know very, very well. Having gone to Tony Robbins' events, he's spoken that on the Health Day. What's your greatest takeaway from Mark Hyman?
Well, he's my mentor. Everything that we teach is great to take away from him. I mean, I don't know. We do like that. Okay, here's my story. So I met him many years ago when I just graduated from a medical degree from NYU. And I remember sitting at a table next to him. And I looked at his skin, and he was in his 60s, and his skin was glowing. And at the time, he was promoting his products with collagen. And I was like, whatever he's doing, I need to be doing too. So I started taking collagen more regularly and recommended to my parents. And yeah, so like my mother, every time she has like her knee hurting, she takes collagen for 30 days. It goes away right away.
Is it all right to take collagen in your coffee? So I take hydrolyzed collagen.
No, I'd really rather do it with water.
Okay.
You should be drinking water with your coffee. Just mix it with water, yeah.
Okay, same thing goes with creatine monohydrate. Do you take creatine monohydrate or you don't bother?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, not regularly, but like in my smoothies, I do.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much for
Thank you very much for having me. Wow, this is like a 45-minute podcast.